Have you ever felt like your energy is fading faster than it used to? Not just physically, but emotionally. Like no matter how much you give, how much you try to support others, the results don't seem to change. Maybe you've spent years lending a hand, offering advice, being the shoulder someone else leans on. But deep down you start to wonder, is it making a difference? Or are you slowly pouring yourself into people who aren't even holding a cup? It's a hard truth to face, especially when you've lived a life filled with compassion, patience, and generosity. But today, I want to talk with you about something important, something that could save you time, peace of mind, and maybe even your health. There comes a point in life when we must ask, not just, can I help this person, but should I? Because as much as we might want to lift everyone up, some people just aren't ready to stand on their own. And if we're not careful, we end up being dragged down in the process. Now don't worry. This isn't about becoming cold or turning your back on others. Quite the opposite. It's about learning to protect your strength so you can give where it truly matters. The ancient philosophers believed that wisdom isn't about helping everyone. It's about helping wisely. Let's take a closer look at the kinds of people they warned us about. People who, unless they choose to help themselves first, can slowly drain the life and purpose right out of you. And you deserve better than that, especially at this stage in life. Let's start with the type of person you've likely encountered before, the one who refuses to see what's right in front of them. You could show them the truth in black and white, and they'd still choose to live in denial. These are the willfully ignorant. They don't lack knowledge. They reject it. They'd rather cling to what feels comfortable than face what's real. You might have tried to help someone like this before. Maybe you offered books, shared stories, had long talks into the night, but nothing sank in, did it? That's because you can't teach someone who refuses to learn. As one ancient thinker put it, if a man does not know to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Think about that. You can give someone all the support in the world, but if they don't know where they're headed, or worse, if they don't care to know, then your energy is simply wasted. Helping someone like that is like trying to water a plant that's been painted green. It may look alive, but it's already decided not to grow. At a certain point, we must let go of the need to fix people who don't want to be fixed. Not because we don't care, but because we do. And then there's another kind, the relentlessly entitled. These folks believe the world owes them something. They expect others, maybe even you, to carry their weight while they sit back and complain that life hasn't been fair. We all know life isn't fair. You've lived long enough to understand that more than most. But what makes life bearable, even beautiful, is our willingness to take responsibility for it anyway. The entitled person, though, wants none of that. They see your kindness not as a gift, but as a debt you owe them. And that's dangerous. Because when you keep giving to someone like that, you're not helping them stand on their own. You're helping them not to. A man who was born into slavery and still became one of history's great thinkers once said, "Man is not troubled by things, but by the view he takes of them." The entitled person sees every challenge as someone else's fault. Every failure, every setback, it's always because of what someone didn't do for them. But here's the truth. Real strength comes from within. Freedom, peace, growth, none of that can be handed to someone. It must be earned. When you help someone who refuses to take ownership of their life, you're not giving them a lifeline. You're giving them a leash, and you're the one holding it. You may have done this with a relative or a longtime friend. You cover their bills, clean up their messes, make excuses for them, and they keep coming back, never to grow, only to lean harder. You tell yourself it's love, but real love doesn't enable weakness. Real love asks for growth. Now I know these conversations are tough. You might be thinking, but what if they need me? Of course they do. That's why you're here. But needing someone and depending on them are not the same. And as the years go on, your energy, your time, your peace, they become even more precious. You've earned the right to choose how you spend them. There's a third type of person we need to talk about, and this one is especially important. Some people don't just take, they destroy. Not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it's subtle. A little negativity here, a sharp word there. But little by little, they erode your peace until you can barely remember what calm feels like. These are the destructive ones. They carry chaos with them wherever they go. Not because they're lost, but because they've chosen not to grow. And often they pull others into their storm, not to be saved, but simply to have company in the mess. There were wise words for this too. We should associate with people who make us better and welcome those we can also improve. But the destructive don't want improvement. They want reaction. They thrive on stirring the pot, on drama, on pulling others down when they don't want to climb up. You've probably walked on eggshells around someone like this, maybe even blamed yourself for their anger or sadness. But let me say something clearly. You are not responsible for someone else's unwillingness to heal. Trying to help a destructive person is like jumping into deep water with someone who won't let go of the stone tied to their ankles. They won't just pull themselves under, they'll take you with them. And the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to come up for air. At this point in your life, you've earned peace. You've walked through enough storms of your own. It's not selfish to protect your peace. It's wise. And when you do, you show others what it means to live with boundaries, with grace, and with purpose. That's what the wise were trying to teach us. Not to harden our hearts, but to open our eyes. To help where help can grow into something good, and to walk away where it only leads to more harm. So take a breath. Think about the people in your life who lifts you up and who slowly pulls you down. You don't need to make a grand announcement or cut anyone off in anger, but you can begin to choose where your energy goes. And you can start now because it's never too late to live with wisdom. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to step back. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but from a deep understanding that your presence, your effort, your patience, it all deserves respect. And when it's poured endlessly into someone who refuses to change, it's not help anymore. It's self-sacrifice without meaning. Let's keep walking through this together because there's another kind of person who can quietly drain you. Not with chaos or conflict, but with hesitation. You see, not all challenges come in the form of anger or manipulation. Some wear the disguise of endless uncertainty. You might know someone like this, the perpetually indecisive. They ask for your advice over and over again. They talk about their dreams, their problems, their plans. They sit with options spread out like a deck of cards, but never choose one to play. You offer suggestions. You listen. You encourage. And yet, days, months, sometimes even years go by and they're still exactly where they started. It's been said to be everywhere is to be nowhere. That's the trap of indecision. The person who tries to keep every door open ends up walking through none. They spend their life waiting for the perfect answer, afraid to make a mistake, afraid to move forward. And in the process, they miss out on living. Now let's be honest. It's natural to be unsure sometimes. We've all wrestled with big decisions. But the difference here is that these individuals make hesitation a lifestyle. They don't want clarity. They want to avoid the discomfort of action. And the more you try to help them move, the more you find yourself stuck too. You may have found yourself in conversations that go in circles. They ask, you answer, they ask again, you give your thoughts, they thank you, promise to act, and next week you're back at the same point. It's like pushing a swing that never comes back to you. It was taught long ago that our greatest power lies in our ability to choose and act. And if someone refuses to embrace that power, your guidance becomes background noise to their inaction. Helping them becomes not a gift, but a distraction from your own journey. Sometimes the kindest thing you can say is, "I trust you'll make the right choice when you're ready." And then step aside. Because giving endless advice to someone who fears decisions is like trying to light a fire with wet wood. the spark won't take, not until they decide to dry off and strike the match themselves. And then, my friend, there are those who don't just hesitate, they hide. Not from life, but from truth. They live in dishonesty, not only lying to others, but also to themselves. These are the chronically dishonest, the people who twist stories, manipulate emotions, and change the facts to suit their needs. Now, this is a tough one because dishonest people don't always look the part. They might be charming, funny, even seem vulnerable. But over time, you notice something is off. You catch the inconsistencies. You feel confused, drained, uncertain if you're imagining things. That's how dishonesty works. It chips away at your clarity, your trust, your inner balance. It was taught that to live with reason is to live in harmony with nature and others. But dishonesty is rebellion against that harmony. It clouds our judgment and poisons our peace. And if you try to help someone who builds their life on lies, you're not helping them find truth. You're helping them bury it deeper. Maybe you've tried to give someone like this a second chance, or a third, or 10th. You wanted to believe they would change, but over and over they used your trust not as a bridge but as a cover. The truth is, no matter how much compassion you have, you can't fix someone who refuses to be honest with themselves. Helping a dishonest person is like building a house on sand. It may look fine for a while, but eventually everything crumbles and you're left in the rubble wondering what happened. Don't let your integrity be the price of someone else's deception. Instead, surround yourself with people who speak truth even when it's hard. People who admit their faults and try to grow from them. Those are the ones worth standing beside because their honesty strengthens your own. And your time, your spirit, they deserve that kind of strength. And now we come to a type of person who doesn't lie with words but with emotions. The emotionally addictive. These are the ones who seem to always be in crisis. Not once in a while, not during hard seasons, but always. If things are calm, they find a reason to stir things up. And when you try to help, it never feels like enough. They want you on call in their corner, ready to soothe every tear and mend every minor problem. But here's the thing, they don't actually want solutions. They want your attention. They want your energy, your concern, your time. And if you're not careful, you'll give so much of yourself that you start to lose track of your own peace. We're reminded that we have power over our mind, not outside events. But when we get pulled into someone else's emotional storm again and again, we start to forget that. We become reactive. We start putting out their fires while our own home quietly burns behind us. You might feel guilty walking away from someone who's hurting. But there's a difference between supporting someone in pain and enabling someone's drama. One is love. The other is sacrifice without purpose. You are not a rescuer. You are a person with your own story, your own challenges, your own precious calm. And if someone refuses to take responsibility for their emotions, no amount of comfort from you will ever be enough. Be kind, be empathetic, but also be clear. Helping someone grow emotionally requires boundaries. It's okay to say, I care, but I can't carry this for you. That's not cold. That's courage. Because here's the truth. You cannot pour peace into someone who keeps poking holes in the cup. They have to want healing, not just comfort. They have to do the work. Otherwise, your presence becomes another part of their pattern. And that's not fair to them or to you. They weren't unfeeling. They were clear-eyed. They believed in helping people, but only in ways that uplift both the giver and the receiver. Anything less, and it stops being help, it becomes a trap. Let that sink in for a moment. Think of the energy you've given over the years. The late-night phone calls, the visits, the forgiveness, the understanding. All beautiful gifts, but not all of them received with the gratitude or the intention you hoped for. Now imagine offering those same gifts to someone who's ready to grow. Someone who may be struggling but is trying. Imagine what could bloom from that. That's where we're headed. There's a quiet strength in knowing when to stay and when to let go. And by now you might be starting to feel the weight of those moments in your own life. Times when you tried your best. Times when you gave more than you had. And maybe looking back, you can see that some people weren't ready or willing to receive what you had to give. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you wise. Now, let's talk about one final kind of person. One that often appears with a smile or with silence, or even with words that sound sweet, but leave you feeling small. These are the resentful. The resentful don't just carry pain, they cling to it. They hold on to bitterness the way some hold on to keepsakes, as if their suffering were a badge of honor. And when you try to help, they don't receive your kindness with gratitude. They twist it. They make it about what wasn't done, what wasn't enough, what should have happened instead. You might recognize this in someone close. A relative who brings up the past every time you talk. A friend who finds fault in even your kindest gestures. Their hurt becomes a weapon. Their disappointment, a wall. You reach out, and they push you away only to say you didn't try hard enough. And I know this one can be especially painful because many of us, especially as we get older, want peace. We want to make things right. We want to believe that time heals, that maturity brings grace. But for some, resentment becomes their identity. And no amount of help can heal someone who's more committed to being hurt than to being whole. There's something powerful to remember here. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because the resentful will always find a reason to belittle what they don't understand. They resist wisdom, not because they don't hear it, but because letting go of anger would mean letting go of control. You don't have to engage with that. You don't have to fight it. And you don't have to prove yourself to someone who's already decided not to see you clearly. What you can do is offer honesty, offer calm, and walk away when your peace is no longer respected. They didn't say we should live in isolation. They believed deeply in community, in helping others rise. But they also understood that our inner life, our soul, as one wise man once said, is dyed by the color of our thoughts. If we surround ourselves with bitterness, we'll wear it too. If we make our home near resentment, we'll soon forget what it means to feel free. And that brings us to a deeper truth, one that ancient wisdom returns to over and over again. You cannot control other people, not their actions, not their choices, not even their pain. The only thing you truly have power over is your own mind, your own reactions, your own choices. So what does all of this mean in the end? Should we stop being kind, stop giving, shut our doors and guard our hearts forever? Absolutely not. This philosophy doesn't ask you to be hard. It asks you to be clear. Clear about where your strength goes, clear about where your energy is best spent, and most of all, clear about your own worth. If someone shows even the smallest spark of willingness to change, nurture it. Walk with them, cheer them on. Be that steady hand they can hold on to when they stumble. But if someone refuses to stand and instead expects you to carry the full weight of their unwillingness, it is not cruel to step away. It is loving to them and to yourself. Because here's the beautiful thing. When you preserve your energy, your peace, your purpose, you don't just protect yourself, you free yourself. And in that freedom, you become a better friend, a better parent, a better partner, a better you. There's a quiet power in walking away from the noise, the guilt, the pressure, and turning toward a life that feels rooted, strong, calm. That's what the wise meant when they said, freedom is the only worthy goal. It's not just freedom from others. It's freedom from the need to fix what was never yours to fix. Freedom from carrying pain that doesn't belong to you. Freedom from mistaking sacrifice for purpose. You've already spent years giving. You've helped where you could. You've stayed up late, answered the phone, driven across town, lent money, offered words, prayed, hoped, forgiven, and that matters. But now, Now is the time to turn that same kindness inward. You still have time to build, to create, to rest, to discover what peace feels like when it's no longer tied to anyone else's chaos. That's not selfish. That's sacred. And if you've listened to all of this and felt seen, if a name came to mind, a memory stirred, or maybe even a gentle ache in your chest, then take a breath. You're not alone. Many of us have walked this path. Many of us are learning even now how to let go in order to hold on to ourselves. So give yourself permission to choose peace, to walk in clarity, to offer help where it will grow, and withdraw it where it has been wasted too long. You are not here to fix everyone. You are here to live, to love wisely, and to use your time, what you have left of it, with intention. If this message has touched you in some way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell me. What has your experience been like? Have you ever had to let go in order to find peace? If this helped you, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Not just so the message spreads, but so you can keep filling your days with stories, wisdom, and reminders that you're not walking this journey alone. Here's to living with clarity, to choosing strength over sacrifice, and to embracing peace not as something we chase but something we finally allow. Here's to living your best life at any age.